Welcome to Culture on Tap. We are a podcast that is about bridging the cultural gap one conversation at a time. We have myself, Xavier. We have Dale sitting across from me, and we have Range. I almost fell there. Range behind the camera. And if you haven't already, make sure that you like, subscribe, and share anywhere you listen or watch podcasts. And make sure to hit the bell so that you get the notifications whenever we have new content coming out, so that you can tap in with us. And so that we can be a resource for you to challenge and encourage you. So we're going to get into episode 3 of the Hillsong Documentary. But before we do that, we have Fun Facts with Range.
Fun Facts with Range. Before we do Fun Facts with Range, just a reminder, we do want you to be putting in questions of things that you would like for us to answer, whether they're spiritual or not. Any type of question's fine, because we do want to plan an episode coming up where we're basically eating stuff and answering questions. It's going to be fun, funny. I mean, it can be serious questions or it can be fun questions. I would say if they're really serious questions, we'll probably make a whole episode out of them. So, yeah. So sure. Here is Fun Facts with Range today. This is more like Fun Facts with Range and Xavier. It's not really a fact about Xavier. It's can Xavier. So I've got 3 Cajun words because Range grew up. Like he's a Cajun.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to spell them. You're going to try to pronounce it.
Yeah, I'm going to write them down.
And then you're going to tell me what you think they mean. Okay?
Okay.
There's 3 words. Do you think he gets any of the 3?
Because
he ain't going to pronounce
it. Which X, whenever you ask him this question about me, he never has confidence in me. But
you dang right.
I'm gonna have a little confidence, and I'm gonna say that X might get one. I don't think he's gonna pronounce any of them right.
See, I think he might pronounce one of them right. I don't think he's going. He might know.
He might know the meaning of one.
Yeah. Let's start with the one. Let's start with the one that he might know.
Okay.
Okay. So you ready to type?
Yep.
And don't type it in Google.
No, it's on my notes. It's in my notes. That's a good idea. I wouldn't even think about that.
Boure. How would you pronounce that? And then what is it?
Boure.
How would you pronounce it, Range?
So that is actually pronounced bourre. What is it?
It sounds like you said Blu-ray, so I'm gonna go with a DVD player. Said Blu-ray?
No,
Bourre.
bourre.
Ridiculous.
You don't know what bourre is?
Blu-ray. Is it a food?
No,
No.
No, it's a card game.
Oh, please. You said Blu-ray player.
So ready?
I actually don't know how to play it.
I don't think I've ever.
My family knows how.
I'll say my mom I know has played it before. I've never played it.
Yeah.
I've seen people play it.
Yeah.
So ready for word number 2?
Sure.
CON dash
Oh, Lord.
YON.
YON. That one's Blu-ray. Kanyan.
You're close. You're close.
Couillon.
How is different whenever it's CONYON?
Couillon.
Couillon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think that means?
Food.
Is that going to be your answer for everything?
No, so it actually originally it was a like a very derogatory, like idiot or stupid or.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's more used along the lines of silly,
Crazy.
type deal.
Wow.
Ready for your
Never would have guessed it.
ready for your last one?
Sure.
He is. There's no,
No.
like
I hope you got your typing fingers on because this one's a long one.
Oh Lord.
ready.
Yeah.
I bet you Stephanie, because I'm sure Stephanie Knapp's watching.
Mm-hmm.
She knows these.
Yeah.
Last one. LAGNIAPPE.
There was actually a magazine named this
Really?
back home.
I did not know that.
A magazine?
Not a magazine, news article
Oh.
type paper.
I didn't know that. I actually did not learn this until I moved to Texas.
Really?
I mean, I'd heard people use it, but I didn't know what it meant
Yeah.
until I moved to Texas.
Okay. So I'm trying to think of the first two and how you did your voodoo.
It's just like it's spelled.
So
Just like the other one.
LAGN makes me think of like lasagna.
Okay.
So I'm thinking that the G is going to be silent. Land nappy?
Wow. You got
Heard it.
way closer than I thought.
Very close. Lanyap.
Lanyap. That was close.
Yeah.
And
What
your
is
answer
that?
cannot be food.
It can't be food. Land nappy. Is it sort of lasagna?
Cajun lasagna.
Say it again.
Lanyap.
Is that lanyap? Use it in a sentence.
Oh, that'd give it away.
Yeah. Can I use the origin of the word? Like you're on spelling bee challenge?
Use it in a sentence. Is it a tool?
No.
Some form of measurement?
Actually, like,
I
I guess
I'll
you-
say like.
yeah. So it means like extra or a little left over.
I said some form of measurement,
Yeah.
So like
but I was thinking of like a tool.
so the way I learned about it is so if you go to what's the restaurant here?
Oh,
Cajuns? Is that it?
no, Lost Cajun.
Lost Cajuns, and you ask for lanyap, they'll bring you
A little extra.
like a little sample.
What did I say? Nappy?
Nappy.
Land nappy?
Yeah. You're pretty close.
It's land nappy and what is it?
Lanyap.
Okay.
Lanyap.
That was pretty close.
Close.
Yeah,
So fun fact with Range, he knows stuff that we don't know.
There you
clearly. He knows stuff that don't exist. How about that? It only exists where you came from in Iowa.
Uh-huh.
So
Oh, that's great.
episode 3, Hillsong. Let me run through the recap and then we'll jump right in. So basically it's broken into like 4 parts. First part being kind of explaining the history of Hillsong, because I think it started out called Hills
Christ or
Christ Community or
something like
Christ
that.
Church
Yeah.
of Christ of Communities or something like I don't remember. It wasn't just Christ Community.
You was just throwing words together.
There's a lot of C's in there.
Christ community of Christ community and of
Christian Corner Church of Christ of the Communities. And he started out that way, and then he went, and I would say what most of us would consider attendance-wise, I'm not saying spiritually, it was a healthy church because they ran multiple hundred people.
Yeah.
But then he went to visit the United States and came back and basically started the prosperity part of the gospel, writing books on money, pushing the money venue, but still stuck with that, whatever that name was. And then it jumps from that and goes further back in history into his dad, because his dad actually planted this church and then all of a sudden just turned the church over to him, and nobody really knew why at the moment. But it comes out that his dad...
And you're talking about Brian.
Brian, yes, Brian. Brian's dad, Frank. But it comes out that Frank, according to them, is a 30-year child sexual abuser, which basically they have, they don't know how many kids, but they talk about some just crazy stories of one family. They're staying there for the weekend, which is the one that basically reported it first. He goes by the code name AAH or AHA, and he was molesting him in the night. And there was another one that comes out, which was the first church I think he was a part of, where they were just doing community group, and he was basically sneaking back there and doing that. Then it comes out that even before that, when he worked at the Salvation Army for Boys, there was accusations against him there. And then they talked about him going to the poor side of New Zealand, because at this time he's in New Zealand.
Yep.
He goes to the poor side of New Zealand, was messing with young boys there, and even going to like the Pacific Islands on mission trips. And for your own podcast, I'm using quotation marks, which I guess it was a mission trip for some, more than likely. And it comes out that he was doing it to boys there. Yeah. And the crazy part in this was, and we'll get further into this. It talks about, because the Assembly of God in New Zealand have like a board per se, and there's over 6 or 7 allegations that are turned into the board that they're not even looking into because they revere him. Yep. And when it finally kind of hits the bubbling point and the police and all are going to get involved, according to this is the documentary. We don't know if any of this is it, but it leads you to believe that there is a doctor that's, I don't know if he's an elder, but he's well-to-do in the church, that diagnoses Brian's dad, Frank, as having Alzheimer's, which means he can't testify and basically can't go to jail for it.
They said in the documentary he was a leader. He was an elder.
Leader. I couldn't remember if they did. So he is a leader. Did say but at this point, Brian knows. Brian, we don't know if Brian knew at a young age, but Brian at this point knows a lot of it. Yeah. And is basically, and that's part 3 of this episode, is Brian basically being a part of the cover up. Like his dad tells him about the first time with the AHA, and we don't know how many times Brian knew about, but he says at this point he only knew about the one. Yeah. That he was a part of the meeting where they offer him $10,000 to not say anything. Yeah. And then, in fact, this man reaches out to Brian for the money because he hadn't gotten it yet. In the process of this, which is alarming to what happens with Hillsong. Hillsong's name was changed to hide this. Yep. Which just tells you the massive
and the trouble that is behind the name.
Right.
Like even in like the name, there's deception. There is evil, like attached.
It's crazy.
To like you are literally changing the identity of your church, the name of your church, for the sake of covering something up.
Well, wouldn't you? Well, and I'll remind me to go back to that because I have a question for you on that. No, that's a huge part of it. But at this point, Brian knows a lot. Yeah. 2000, Brian brings his dad on stage, and we'll talk about this more too. Honors him. Which is super creepy. Because we'll get into like the process of it being your father and all that stuff. And then an investigation starts to the AOG, which Brian appoints himself as the lead head of investigations and tells the police that he never thought that this could be negligent, which is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. Yeah. Like, and that is true because you can see that on the video. Like they say, so there's a Assembly of God team, which, well, they also did that. Brian, not only did he change the name of the church, he convinced Australia to change the name of Assembly of God from AOG to ACC.
Yeah.
Which I don't remember what those Christ Community Corner Christian Center celebration. I don't know.
Yeah, he basically got him to change the entire denomination.
The whole denomination, like it's funny. Like, the whole denomination changes off of unfathomable sin.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to say that every church that's in Australia that's connected to ACC, but this is a problem.
Yeah.
And so the police asked him basically, so they put together a investigation team in-house, and you appoint yourself. And he says, I didn't appoint myself. They appointed me. And they said, and you don't see how this is a conflict of interest, because I never thought of this as conflict of interest or negligent. And I'm like, how does no one, like, nobody
has the competency to say
this isn't a good
look.
Like, I mean, because here's the way I look at it. If something, whether it's at the church or at Youth Reach, happened with you or me, I already know the other cannot be in part of looking into it like that way. Like, there's going to have to be people brought in.
Yeah.
Because
let alone leading
it. Yeah, like
leading it. Like it's one thing to be a part of it. It's another. You are we are here. The meeting is adjourned.
Yeah.
Like you are.
Yeah. And congratulations,
like making the commencement speech.
FYI, like, now y'all are Assembly of Christ Community Center, Cornerstone, Crescent Moon.
Like, yeah, it's utterly ridiculous to think. Like, there's a lot of this where you're like, okay, maybe, at least for me, I'm like, well, I really don't know the situation, so it's like, it could be this.
But when it's coming out of his mouth, he literally says, brother, I didn't think of this as negligent.
Brother,
you run the largest church in the world.
You ain't that dumb.
like you literally
You're not that dumb, bro.
Like, come on, bro. like I'm like, what? Like,
no. I don't believe you.
Huh? What'd you say?
I don't believe you, bro. I'm sorry. That may be super judgmental. But like
UB's a liar.
There's a lot of speculation on like, this situation, maybe that. Nah, I don't believe you, bro.
Well, and here's how you know he's a liar. The next sentence they ask him, or he says out of his own mouth, from this point on, we did not allow my dad to preach. But that's not true. They moved his dad to another Hillsong church where he continues preaching. And now I don't know if the message he's preaching because they're just showing you the outside of the church.
Yeah.
But he clearly, at some point in his life, he preached a message talking about a boy and how attractive he is, which is super creepy. Like makes your stomach turn over. And it's like, whether he preached it after he let his dad, like, you're no longer remotely innocent in this at all. Like, you can't be. And so, but basically, and then the part 4 is it basically starts coming out that there's really no investigation because, according to what we saw in the documentary, the police chief is another leader. He's a leader of the church.
Yep.
The prime minister, which is funny because on episode 4, he goes, I go to another church. Everybody knows that.
Yep.
But prime minister goes like, all these politicians, all these police, like, it's literally looks like the mob.
Yeah.
Like, I'm literally going, this is Christian mafia right here. Like he has a pulse.
You are creating a covering in every section or every area of influence. You're creating a covering.
I will say, I don't know that I've ever, not in a godly way, but seen someone orchestrate and control a situation more in my it's mind blowing to me, like how much people literally just listened to what he had to say.
Yeah,
like, I mean, crazy.
They believed it.
Yeah, so
not just listen, but you're right.
Yeah, like which is yeah, like it's because I would say of the 4 episodes, this is the hardest one to watch. But at the same time, as I'm watching this, I'm going, whether it's been doctored for TV, like it's still like, this is crazy.
What are we doing?
This is, because like we haven't talked, like, so let's just jump into it. Like, when this is, first of all, it's funny to me because when the episode starts, they're kind of making digs at Brian. He's goofy.
Yeah.
Like, he wears this, like, he doesn't preach great.
Yeah.
He's awkward on stage.
Yeah. Look like Ned Flanders.
Yeah, looks like Ned Flanders, but he's a strong leader.
Yeah.
Which is clear.
Yes. Yes.
Throughout all of it.
Yes.
But the part that's crazy is, so they go back and start talking about the dad, who, I don't know if they ever said if he's a good speaker or not, but people clearly loved him.
Yeah.
Like, and he was, well.
And people also feared him.
Absolutely. He like that, like, well, throwing water and cushions and
throwing chairs
like,
and
throw
stuff.
something at me on Sunday morning. Like, we gonna have a different kind of Sunday. Bro, could you imagine sitting out there? Like,
Yeah.
like, you doing something special when you can get clocked in the head with his chair and come back next Sunday. Like, we got problems.
Yep. Yeah.
But, I mean, here's the part. Like, I guess my question is, because we said we're going to go back to talk about, the first thing I think is, how do you lead people to the point where they're behind you? Because, like, one of the things that it says is one of the boys comes forward to an elder who clearly he probably trusts, shares, Pastor Frank molested me. And the elder prays with him and says, we are going to go to the police and get this fixed. Nope. It says the elder punches him
in the face.
Punches a child in the face and says, never speak of our pastor that way. Like, I mean, Range is going through the process of being an elder at our church. And one of our best friends, like, I don't think he's punching kids in the face for us.
Yeah.
Like, not that I'd want him to, but I'm just saying, like,
No.
like, what Kool-Aid are you drinking?
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know, like, me and you talked about this. It was alarming to me. And once you shared your point of view, I was like, okay, I could see that. It's alarming to me that they're doing, like, basically like a home group or a community group, and the kids have gone to sleep, and the pastor, who's not staying the night, goes back to the back and is going into a little boy's room.
Yeah.
And it happens multiple times. But you pointed out, like, you know, you've played video games with my son. Like, I've been in your kids' rooms.
Right.
Like, so, like, maybe there is a level of trust where you could never think
that would be going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is alarming.
Yeah.
But you know, and then I guess my question in all of this is coming out, and even well, before I have my question, what's your initial, like, it's a lot. What do you think?
So let me just throw this out there. On the first episode, I gave the benefit of the doubt as far as there was something that was encouraging. Second episode, there was something that was encouraging. This one,
The best thing I can say is he got rid of that mustache. I'm just being real honest.
this was a hard episode to watch. Just from the jump.
From the jump.
Like, it was hard, and
there's zero redeeming quality.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing with the other two. So, like, the first one, the redeeming quality was, you could say, you don't get to make excuses for what you did, but you were mentored and groomed into this. Like, there's some, and at the end you see remorse when he comes on stage. The second one, redeeming quality is he's honest. Like, he's very open about what he's done. He's very broken by what he's done. But they're still hurt in the process. I can't give you anything in this one. And
maybe that the truth is coming out now.
well,
maybe.
I mean, because if you watch the episode, and Brian refuses to comment. So
Yeah.
I mean, but I mean, what are you
pretty
going to
telling.
comment when? I mean, some of the stuff is factual evidence.
Yeah.
Like, no, we can't.
either you said or Frank said or
Right.
you know, there's receipts to
Yeah. This isn't just, I'm looking at your body language and you seem like you're not on the up and up.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I don't have any thing that encouraged me. If anything, like it took me maybe a couple of days to watch episode 4 just to recover from this this episode. So just throwing that out there, there wasn't anything that I can think of that was.
And I would like to say this: if you're watching this and maybe you have gone through something like this, or know people that have, if we say anything or we laugh, we are not laughing at the situation.
Oh no.
Our humor, like even me saying he got rid of the mustache, like I am making light of that because the weight of what happened is so it leads me to ask this question, like how do you, I'm not trying to be judge of someone's whole, how can you reconcile with, do these men know Jesus? Like I don't like, because we're talking about 4 different leadership teams, 3 different lead pastors, all covering up. And even Josh Bullock comes out and like you can see the brokenness, like because he does speak and he goes, I knew in the 90s because Brian tries to say that he didn't know till what was like 04, I don't remember what year it was. But Brian,
it was early 2000s. Yeah,
Josh said that we knew in the early 90s because Brian told him, and he says it's more like basically I am at fault for not saying anything, and like you can tell he's broken because he didn't. But I'm wrestling with not. So let me be clear. I think that anyone can sin of any way and know Jesus and for repentance, but there doesn't seem to be any act of repentance, and there seems to be nothing but cover up to date. Because so we're clear, June 15th or something like that, he went back to court for the final thing because he was a part of trying to cover it up.
Yeah.
And according to what I read today on the news, August 16th is the verdict.
Yep.
And he's got 2 other, which we'll get into in episode 4, 2 other allegations. One has already been charged with DUI.
Yeah. So probation for 3 years.
3 years for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, where do you stand on that? Like,
yeah, that's tough because on one hand, Frank he's dead.
Right.
And it's like, was there repentance before he passed?
Right.
But it's like, I mean, there's a lot of prominent leaders who did so much that did more than, shouldn't say more, but they seemed to love Jesus. They were huge in people's spiritual formations,
right,
with apologetics, with a whole bunch of different things, to where it's even a question for me. I'm like, you was doing all of this for years, and
Robbie, like first one, Ravi Zacharias,
exactly.
Like I revered,
and it's just like I struggle with him, but those
were women.
I'm gonna just be honest. Like, you saw what he was doing as far as what he was communicating and things of that nature. This guy, again, like, I don't hear Jesus out of his mouth.
Right.
I hear the gift of the Spirit, speaking in tongues.
Right.
I hear, prosperity, all of these different things. So it's like, well, even if none of this was a thing, would he actually be, you know?
So here's I guess you said we don't know if there was repentance, but we do know when his dad sent him to they just said Coastal Hillsong, a lady that was in that church that had become good friends with us says, we were playing cards with them in our home with our children
Yep.
every night.
Yep.
And if we'd have known this, like, and to me, like, if you're repentant,
yeah,
like, people should know.
Yeah.
Like, people should know. And to me, like, there's no telling how many young men.
Yeah, these are the ones that we know about.
Right. Because I think they said there's officially 17 official allegations or accusations against him, which 30 years, I mean, there's no telling. I mean, if it was happening.
And this was from like 60s on. This doesn't include the 40s, because he did ministry from like 40 to 60 before he planted the church or something
Right.
like that.
Well, and he was even at the Salvation Army before that, where there was allegations against him
Right.
with that. And I guess, so here's a question to ask. How do you, and I feel like we look at it different, but how do you, if you're the son, your dad hands you the keys, the church, like, we already have a skew view of what the church should be, but the church is officially growing. Like, it hasn't become Hillsong, but it's growing. Hillsong, or not, Hill Christ Corner Community Confirmation Church.
Concierge.
Yeah, concierge, contemporary, is already putting out music. So, like, it's already becoming a thing. And then your dad comes to you and says this. And, of course, he verbalizes in episode 4 that his mama knew, too.
Yeah.
Like, how do you, like, what do you do if you're him? Like, that's hard.
If I'm who? Brian?
Brian.
What do you do?
I mean,
I mean,
You lead the investigation and start a new church.
I was about to say, like, it's like you cover it up. Because for one, that's his dad.
Right. I mean, I feel like, if I'm just being honest, one, I'd want to believe him that if his dad told him it has only happened one time, I'd want to believe that, and I'd want to believe any excuse he gave because it's your dad.
Yeah.
The part where I feel like he went left when I would have went right on this situation, not all of this one alone. If I'm being transparent, I could see me even going, okay, this is your one situation. He's willing to take money. It's willing not to crush you and me, who did not do this. Mm-hmm. I wish I could say I would never do that. But the truth is, like,
until you're in that situation,
you don't know. I don't know what I
would
do.
like to think that I would go to the elders.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think me in my right mind in this situation, whether it's my dad, whether it's you, whomever, it's like, I'm going to go to the elders and we are going to, first off, get it out in the open.
Right.
To protect everyone who knows.
Yeah, I mean, because easy.
It doesn't, I don't want it to be a situation to where it's like, okay, you told me and I know this and I'm holding on to it, but I'm not telling anybody. We're going to figure this out in-house type of thing. It's like, no, let's put it out in the open as far as amongst the eldership, amongst the leaders of the church, so that we can handle this. For one, the weight isn't just on me, son.
Right.
But it's on us as a church.
Well, and he did go to leadership. Now, we don't know what the conversation, because nothing happened.
Right.
I mean, because, like, let's just be clear. It's different. Like, so, like, if you or I came to each other and this was a situation, we're still young enough where I'm like, you're going to have to answer for this, bro.
Yeah.
We're talking about an old man that's no longer the pastor of the church. And again, I don't condone, because what you didn't do was you didn't just put him away. You sent him to another church where who knows if he did something else.
Right.
Where he's still preaching, and that's not okay.
Yeah.
And I would never do that.
Yeah. And one time is one too many, bro.
Well, yeah.
If it was one time,
like,
nah.
And to me, that tells me that you believe you're so powerful that you don't fear God. Like, I would be like, I ain't letting you in the pulpit because, like, I ain't.
And if I'm completely honest, I'm like, what have you done with my kids?
Right. I mean, because we both, without using names, we have people that have been in our life that have done these things, not to our children, but the first thought we both had was, you've been around my children.
Yeah.
Like, did this happen? Mm-hmm. And like, I couldn't live with myself if I allowed that person back around anybody else's kids.
Exactly.
Like, I couldn't. And yeah, it's easy to sit on here on the mic and go, if you did that, I'm immediately calling the cops and you're going to jail. It's easy to say that. But the reality is, I'm ruining your family. You're going, like, it's hard.
Yeah.
And we're talking, this is your dad. And
whether you like it or not, you're going to be tainted for that, because it's like, it's in your DNA.
And let's just be real. He's finally moved from the weird, goofy pastor to the Brian Houston that's creating something that's everybody wants to be a part of now. So yeah, I mean, that part to me is so hard. The part, like, so let me just even ask this question. What can you be? That's not the right way. What kind of power do you have to have when you know that you're not even getting arrested? Like, I mean, now it looks like he might be serving 5 years. Like, that's what people seem to be. But basically, when that administration was in office, because it didn't happen until the administration changed.
Yep.
That we're gonna be fine. Like, this is, and I guess for me, like, where does your conscience and soul have to be? Like, you find out this about your dad, and you stand him in front of the whole church in 2000, and literally revere him and talk about there's never been,
And pretty much force people to give a standing ovation.
yeah. Like, what are we talking about? Like,
But this goes back to the first episode whenever one of the reporters was like, they said, because Brian Houston was, going to the White House and he was doing all of these things. And they asked a question that was pretty profound. They said, was this ever about following Christ or was it about consolidating power? Right? So this is what that comes to. You're talking about how powerful do you have to be in order to think like we're going to basically get away with this. It's like this isn't just Hillsong New York blowing up, exploding over social media over the course of 5 years or so. This is something that old buddy's been building for 30 plus years.
I would say
to where it's like he has been consolidating power for that long, putting people in position to protect himself. So there probably is this sense of, oh, we're good. Because my track record as far as what I've created
right
has given me this stronghold around me to where we're good.
So tell me if you feel like this is a fair view. Because I don't want to paint something that isn't accurate.
Yeah.
It feels to me that we've created, like you said, power. So like we changed the name. Because it happened like back then. I'm willing to believe when they changed the name because his logic was if anybody finds out. It wasn't if we go to jail. Yeah. It was if anybody finds out, we can say, well, that happened at Hills Christ Solidarity Capo
underneath this.
Yeah, we're Hillsong Church.
Right.
This isn't the same thing.
Right.
So you change the name, but then it feels like to me at this point when we change it, all control. So we build a college where we mentor and make what we want. We handpick what we want from here, and then we just start spreading globally. And when this becomes a public thing in the 2000s, it's not a concern. It's just a nuisance.
Yeah.
Like I didn't get the impression when they're talking about it like there was this level of fear.
Yeah.
It was like we ain't getting arrested.
Yeah.
We ain't like that. And I mean, and we both know, all three of us know, the way even this country handles sexual abuse on children is not handled correctly.
Right.
This is an area that worldwide we are way behind on.
They're probably thinking, like you're saying, let's plant all of these different churches globally, and this will be a flea on the back of a dog.
Yeah, even if it
may
becomes
be annoying.
Public, no one's going to stop this train.
Right.
And so, like, I feel like it's a fair statement to go, like, because we're going to see this before it becomes we can take the money we want.
Yeah.
We can have sex with who we want.
Yeah.
We can literally push around people we want. We have police officers. We have people in parliament. Like we have everything we need. And when you're done, we'll just axe you. Like it's just over.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think it stems early on because Josh Bullock's a big name, and he saw this worked. And it just feels like it's hard for me to go. Where's Jesus?
Yeah.
Like, because I'm having trouble. Like, we both know, and I don't want to get into like details because it's not about tearing about people down. My past with my dad, who was a pastor, and some of the things he did is hard for me to digest. Not to this degree.
Yeah.
Like this is a different.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Like it's one.
And that's what I was saying. Like, because with certain situations, you see Jesus at least sprinkled.
Right.
Whereas this,
I don't see it at all.
no remnant.
Like, bro, we're not talking about, like, it's one thing to go, 45 years ago, I made this mistake. There's not a face. We're talking about a man that lives in your community, that you know who he is, and then it starts coming out one after another after another. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand how, like, it literally, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's rough. I think, obviously the big bulk of the episode was about Frank. There was, the change with the mustache and, the suits that he was wearing,
It's being like, because he used to dance real goofy, like on stage.
Yeah.
Like, and the funny part is, even the image
started to tan,
buffed up.
Yeah.
Well, like if you look, when the church started out, they were strong, and this isn't a judgment on Assembly of God or Pentecostal church, but it was a strong backing of that. So he was very charismatic in his dance when he was on stage.
Yeah.
A whole lot of tongues, and as they went worldwide, he lessened that and became more like, you can see that he's more of a, well, he was like doing push-ups on the stage, and like he wants people to see him as a man of power, not as a man filled with a spirit, which is a vastly different thing.
Yeah.
Well, but I also think, to me, episode 3 is twofold. Here's the God moment for me. Twofold. Your power will never outpower God. And where he thought, what he didn't realize is what he did to Carl stemmed this, and it literally started he thought that he was going to get rid of what was threatening to him, and what he didn't realize was what's threatening him is his health, and his power wasn't enough. And the other thing is, as we see, God's going to take his church.
Yep. And it doesn't matter how long you've been consolidating power.
No.
It doesn't matter how you've built, your area of influence, the protection that you have, the covering that you have. And I mean, we can say this, we don't know this for a fact, but even with other churches, it doesn't matter how much you've put around you that covering. Whenever it's time to pay the piper.
Yeah, when God calls, and this Sunday we start Daniel.
Yep.
And one of the things to talk about is before they get to Babylon, he warned them in Deuteronomy.
Yep.
Don't play this game.
Yep.
At some point, do not, and this will be in my message, do not mistake God's patience for apathy. It's not the same.
Yeah.
And so, and that's what's crazy, like, as Christians, we, especially pastors, we should take heed in this. We're talking about the largest church in the world, arguably, Carl, top 5 pastors at the time.
Yeah.
Hands down, the greatest worship team to ever exist in our lifetime.
Yeah.
Like, no one would compare anybody, not just Hillsong United, Young and Free. Like, they literally, when you thought contemporary music, you thought Hillsong.
Yeah.
None of it mattered.
Yep.
It all came down, which we'll talk about in 4.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and here's the sad part for me is, in the Houston family, I believe that there are probably innocent bystanders that are having to live out the wake of the decisions of a few, which is sad.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No. Not at all.
Yeah.
This has been Culture on Tap. We appreciate you guys tapping in with us. And, again, like he said, if you've been through any sort of abuse, any sort of just violation, any of the laughing or anything like that, that was taking place was not in terms or directed towards the abuse at all. We do not take that lightly. For one, in our families, we've had to deal with that. and walk very closely with people who have had to deal with that. But also in our everyday work, with, me and Dale working at a boys' home, we've had to deal with that and make reports and things of that nature. So this is something that is near and dear to our hearts, and something that we fight for, and something that we do not take lightly. And that is the reason why this was the hardest episode for us to watch, and for us to process, is because this hits way too close to home for us. So we are with you. We're standing with you. We're praying for you. We're praying with you. And honestly, we are fighting for the voiceless. Whether it's this podcast, whether it is just in our everyday life, we are fighting for those who don't have a voice, or those who have been silenced. So we're with you. We love you guys, and thank you for tapping in with us, and we will see you guys next time.
See you guys.
Culture on Tap is sponsored by Houston Radio Platinum, playing the best classic hits. You can download the Houston Radio Platinum app. It's in your app store, or just ask Alexa to play Houston Radio Platinum.